Yes, indeedy, we are live once again. It's your boy Dabrand knows. Give it up, come on. Got a very exciting show lined up for you tonight. Your boy Zon Ramondani is in hiding. Cause people want that head on that swivel. Cause them buses ain't free yet, and the trains done went up. New York City, let's go. We take it back to when we had that big storm. Remember that the snow? I think it was 1989 or something. The snow was so deep, schools, everything closed down. Nobody couldn't go or come do nothing. Y'all remember that? It feels like it'll be something like that right now, right? Like, I mean, I still got piles of garbage outside. Mondami, what's going on? Bruh. It's gonna be a rat fiesta. I'm already having problems walking my wife down the block. Miss Adams kept it clean a little bit, right? So we about to get into this. Now that y'all got my attention for the next 2 hours. This is an informational program. You come here to learn and get yourself together. So if you see the links, this show is being sponsored by the InfoWarsStore.com. But you can hit my link and go copy some of that good old sea moss, that methylene blue. Got that iodine. Yeah, that's... Hey, man, listen. When you push your 60, man, you still feel like you in your 20s. You're doing something right. You heard? So with that being said, with no more further delay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my show started. You heard? Brando. So with no further delay, miss a moment of silence, please. And there you go.
Breaking the splits down, getting my residuals, moving like Chris Brown. I keep it original, you know how my shit sound. I'm way more mature, but I ain't put the blick down. They looking like, wow, this nigga say blick now? Not really, motherfucker, it just rhymes with Chris Brown. When I come around, they all gonna skip town like they owe me money or tried to Obi-Wan me. Then I went Anakin, now they all panicking. You could be perfectly dressed, it won't make you a man again. You don't even smell the kind of shit that you standing in. Jumped out the window, don't know what you landed in. Cop blocking motherfuckers made me switch up the plan again. Okay, guess what? Nigga, I was built for this. I was born for this. They won't admit that they watch me like a porno flick. The rap game is a toilet. I be on some shit. I'm beyond your shit and all that other corny shit. Me in the game on some holy matrimony shit. This my anniversary, some Tony shit. Load the clip, do a spin. Grab my dick on some Michael Jackson shit. Nueve.
Let's get into this. Now that you know that your boy the Asian Brando knows, let's pop off.
is, in fact, yes, a mountain of garbage. Lou Valentino says accurately, and he's not describing Zohran Mamdani, but the pileup in New York City. And
first and foremost, let me give a shout out to my boy Kevin 24/7. Give it up. And the LV Nation, Lou Valentino. Let's get it going.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to introduce another familiar face and name here, Dr. Steve Turley, because he said something today, or he actually said several somethings today that really caught.
Oh, one more thing. We commercial free, by the way. We commercial free. Let's get it.
My attention, and I wanted to expand on them just a little bit.
What you're witnessing here isn't the latest scene coming out of Minneapolis. Well, these are most certainly leftist agitators, but they're not harassing ICE agents trying to sleep at a Hilton. These protesters are demonstrating in front of none other than Zohran Mamdani's home. And the reason they're there should send a chill down the spine of every so-called progressive politician in America.
Yeah, Zohran Mamdani's ties, or at least his mother's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But if you thought that that was bad, wait until you see this.
You know what they say about promises? They're a lot easier to make than to keep. And right now, New York City's new socialist mayor, Zohran Mamdani, is learning that lesson the hard way. Just days ago, protesters gathered outside Gracie Mansion. That's the official residence of New York City's mayor. And they weren't conservatives or Republicans. These were Mamdani's own voters. The people who knocked on doors for him. The people who believed every word of his radical campaign promises. And now, reality has hit him like a ton of bricks.
That's right. We know about your mom. Now listen, we was with you, Zohran. We voted for you, Zohran. We advocated for you, Zohran. We advocated for you. You ain't getting up and get up in there and lie to us. You lied, Zohran. Shame, Zohran.
Shame! Shame!
The first lie was CCRB, Zohran.
Shame!
CCRB had the final say, Zohran.
Shame!
Now, the immediate trigger for that protest, as you just heard there, was the release of the Epstein files.
And I do want to point out the gentleman here who said that on the bullhorn, he advocated for Zohran. Zohran, you lied to us. We voted for you, Zohran. You lied to us. Well, just so that we're abundantly clear here, Zohran Mamdani is not done lying to New Yorkers, okay? So just wanted to put that, I wanted to clear the air on that one.
And as it turns out, those files mention Mamdani's mother at a 2009 party. Apparently, Mamdani's mother, filmmaker Mira Nair, attended a 2009 after party at convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse.
Yeah, but what about Trump? What about Trump? His names are in the Epstein file. What about Trump? Trump's name is in the Epstein file. Okay, I don't mean to get too sidetracked and distracted here, but I do need to bring this up, okay? And at least do my part in sharing the truth. And that truth being, well, as Steven Crowder says, every single mention of Trump in the Epstein files posted by the left consistently crops out the very next line. The complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. This is a perfect example of what deceptive editing looks like.
Something that people left out when circulating these allegations, they actually cropped this part that immediately followed the accusations. It said complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed 3 separate incidents involving police which requested mandatory psychiatric evaluation. You know, there are people out there, and the police refer to them as serial confessors. There are people who get a thrill out of confessing to things like they didn't do. That's why sometimes people go, well, he confessed. Well, there are a lot of people who confess. They will confess, and it's verifiably false, and they'll keep coming back in to go, no, I did it. I committed the rape, or I committed the murder. Like, this is something that people need to understand. And there are people out there who make false accusations all the time. For more proof, see Me Too. This is an anonymous source that was deemed not credible, and there was a record of multiple requests from police for psychiatric evaluations. If someone right now who hates you just said, you know what, I'm going to go to the authorities and say that you raped a minor. And the police say, oh, well, this person's absolutely insane, and you have an alibi where they can go, here he is on security camera footage at that exact time, not even in the state. Do you think it would be fair 5, 10, 15 years from now for that to be a matter of record? And people say, well, why not this? Why didn't he ever address this?
Right. Yeah, I think Zohran Mamdani needs a psychiatric evaluation, and anyone who voted for him, anyone who still supports him at this point, especially as a New Yorker. But I can tell you this, Zohran Mamdani is not confessing to the fact that he is absolutely hell-bent on destroying New York City. And what was that phrase that he used? The warmth of collectivism? Yeah, how does that feel right now?
But let's be honest. I mean, that's just the spark. The real fire burning underneath is something much bigger. New York City voters are starting to realize they got sold a fantasy. Here's the brutal truth that Mamdani is now facing. And it was always there, but he did everything he possibly could to downplay it and ignore it during his campaign, with the help of the legacy media, I might add. New York City, as we speak, is staring down a $12.6 billion budget deficit over the next 2 fiscal years. Let me say that again. $12.6 billion. That's billion with a B. The city comptroller says this is the worst budget crisis New York has faced in almost 20 years since the 2008 financial collapse. Now, you don't have to be an economic genius here. Mamdani won his election by promising voters the moon, almost literally, right? Free buses for everyone, estimated costs $700 million, $800 million per year. Universal free childcare starting at 6 weeks old. His own campaign estimated that would cost about $6 billion annually. Government-run grocery stores, frozen rents, tax the rich into oblivion. He was going to turn New York City into a socialist paradise. His campaign paid, right? These were not organic supporters. His campaign bought and paid for somewhere between 90,000 and 100,000 volunteers. They went door to door. They made phone calls. They organized rallies. Bernie Sanders campaigned for him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez campaigned for him. This was supposed to be the big one.
Now, let's talk about being paid, okay? And I'm not saying being paid for by taxing the rich, but paid. And Nate Friedman says, I caught him paying protesters. It's paid for.
This is a Tax the Rich rally in New York City ran by the DSA, a movement that wants to abolish capitalism, the police, and borders. And that's a professional protester I caught paying other protesters. Make no mistake, this movement is growing rapidly throughout the country. One of their candidates just became mayor of New York City.
Exposed. A protest organizer was caught posting paid positions for demonstrators, offering $3,500 to $4,200 a month for part-time activism. These protests aren't organic, they're funded. So there's that.
Proof that socialism could work in the heart of American capitalism. And now, reality is hitting like a $12 billion freight train. Mamdani himself has been forced to admit the scale of the crisis. He's calling it Eric Adams' budget crisis, right? Blaming his predecessor, Eric Adams, for hiding the true nature of this fiscal disaster.
For which we know Eric Adams did anything but hide this fiscal disaster that was headed New York City's way. We've already discussed and talked about that. But really what jumps out at me is, again, the warmth of collectivism. And he can only blame so much on Eric Adams, the former mayor. These Democrats, there's no accountability on their part, on their side. Eric Adams is an exception, and I don't think he would have been a Democrat. I think he might have switched to independent. But at the end of the day, really and truly, Zohran, as I will share with you, Lou Valentino says, is not even a Democrat. He's a socialist. He's taken over the Democrat Party, at least for New York, as far as they're concerned. And the snow that's now piled up on these New York City streets and trash, this is new. This just happened. Eric even show New Yorkers how to use a garbage can. But how is Zohran Mamdani going to blame that on him?
And, I lived in New York City. I've had to experience something like this, but not at this level. I've actually never seen this before, especially after a storm. New York City usually cleans up or has a plan, but apparently Mamdani is letting the city burn down. He's letting the city look like I'm going to say it looks like shit. And everybody is posting about it, including all my friends. So I had to show you this because not only is Mamdani claiming that the city is going broke, but Mamdani is being hit from all different angles because now it's time to lead, and he's not leading. In fact, homeless people have died in record numbers. From what we see, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. Not a joke. This is for real. NYC cold weather deaths.
I don't think Lou is in New York. I think he moved. But I did see that Polymarket just moved to New York, and I got to wonder why. There's no amount of money you can pay me to want to move to New York City and have to deal with this shit, okay? Zohran Mamdani, and it gets worse. Trust me, folks. I have more to show and share with you. But his cop-out here is that none of the frozen to death homeless people that died were in encampments. That's his claim to fame here, is that they weren't in the tent cities that he reinstated, that Eric Adams eliminated, thus putting the homeless back out on these streets to bear these cold weather temperatures. But according to Zohran Mamdani, none of them died in the tent cities, so it's okay. Those deaths don't matter, according to him.
Apparently, Mayor Zohran Mamdani says the death toll rises to about 16 in New York City. The New York Post posted about it. Everybody is talking about this, but we'll get there in just one moment. First, we got to show you about this communist plan going to hell. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this.
Live from New York, people. It is snowing, and the sanitary department is behind in picking up. This is a mountain of garbage right here. It stretches almost a whole block. Setting back.
So I'm walking on 89th Street in between York and East End, which is the closest street to Mayor Mamdani's house.
Now, what you're about to see is going to blow your mind. This is the closest to Mamdani's house, and his street is completely trashed, ladies and gentlemen. The saying cleanliness is next to godliness just seems a bit ironic here, all things considered, right? But what do you expect from someone who eats with his hands and dirty ass fingers?
It is completely trashed. I just want you to show you how disgusting it looks. And at the end, you'll be able to see just how close we are to his house, which is at the end of this street. Here. Just so you have reference. Can't forget over here. This has been here a while.
That is crazy. What is happening in New York City? What is this meltdown about? Why is there so much garbage on the street? New York City streets clogged with garbage after winter storm. Trash piles up in snowbanks in parts of New York City. Everyone is posting about this.
See those stairs? That's where the mayor lives. Okay, here we have more garbage. I mean, it's just such a joke at this point, and it's been like this for days. This is my dog walking street.
Yo, Zohran, where are you? Where is Zohran Mamdani? The streets of New York looks like a fucking dump. You have garbage piled the fuck up to the top. You have snow all over the fucking place.
So New Yorkers are panicking. They're posting pictures everywhere, and garbage-filled streets is providing New Yorkers with the warmth of collectivism, says there Rob Schneider. And here is more pictures of this. Now, a lot of people are panicking because this is starting to happen on a lot of the areas where these liberals have pretty much began to live in. A lot of these liberals that did vote for Mamdani. So a lot of their areas are also stockpiled. It's not the hood. This ain't the Bronx, right? Because a lot of people in the Bronx, they're pretty much used to failed Democrat leadership already. But now you're getting Lower East Side, Upper East Side, usually where those white liberals begin to live. So it's so funny watching them complain about all of this and melt down over the irresponsibility of timing behind the mayor, sanitation as a whole, and then the deaths that have happened, 16. So people are dying on the. They're not dying from homicides. They're not dying from failed robberies. They're dying from cold. So what are the solutions? People are literally calling on Zoran Mamdani to be a leader at this moment, but are they experiencing some type of collectivism where everybody has to go through the same thing because everybody is equal to that degree, right? You don't get what you paid for. Everybody makes the same. This world of communism where the government is the savior. Well, guess what? Government ain't coming to save you ever.
That would be like, who's that? It's the government, sir. We're here to help. Yeah, right. And I want to show you guys this. It popped up in my inbox. And most Medicare, this is from NASDAQ, most Medicare beneficiaries will lose this popular benefit on January 31. Here's what seniors need to know. Besides what everyone's losing, just have questions, call the number on your screen, 270-467-2426. And there's a link in the description to learn more too.
And if for too long these communities have existed as distinct from one another, we will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Well, that was Socialist Communist Mayor Zoran Mamdani pushing the warmth of communist collectivism, but now the number is growing past 16 New Yorkers froze to death out on the streets because Mamdani doubled down on reversing and getting rid of Mayor Eric Adams' policy to get them into shelters. Let's welcome back to the show from House Judiciary, New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Congressman, this is less than a month in office, and now you got Mamdani's top ally, Democrat Queensborough President Donovan Richards, saying Mamdani, his aides are saying he gave them these people a death sentence. Garbage is piling up in New York City. One person tweeted, "This is the warmth of uncollectivism."
I can't believe, in fact, I have to say, when I listened to his speech, I didn't believe that I was in the United States of America, this once great city, which still can achieve greatness if we change the direction it's going in now. This center of capitalism, of entrepreneurship, of success, where if you worked hard, if you did more, if you give it your best, you achieve. That's Americanism, and it's American exceptionalism. And there is a substantial, substantive difference in what Mamdani believes and what I believe most Americans think and feel and believe themselves. And you're right, in a short period of time, we've already got people dying in the streets, garbage that's not picked up, vermin, the snow wasn't dealt with properly, and that's just the beginning. Wait till these policies are in effect for a long time. Wait till businesses leave. I mean, you can't just give everything away for free. Yes, in America, we help people. We extend a hand and we help to bring you up, but we don't give you everything. You have to do for yourself as well.
What do you make of this? Democrat New York Governor Kathy Hochul is reportedly really angry and mad at Mamdani for using his press conference last week to try to bully her into raising taxes. Albany, New York, the capital, can only raise taxes, not the city. Let's listen to Governor Hochul say his tax hike would cause New Yorkers to flee. They would crush an estimated 173,000 small businesses. Mamdani has never run a company. He's always worked for the government. Watch this.
So Mayor Mamdani has said that he doesn't think that wealthy people and corporations would actually leave if their taxes go up. Do you disagree with that?
It's not a gamble I want to take because we're already down about $13 billion in revenues from people who did leave our state.
$13 billion already left the state, and he wants to increase taxes by more than 50% to spend about $18 billion more of taxpayers' money for what? More dead homeless people? I mean, it's so bad with Kathy Hochul and she's so mad at him. She's saying her aides are saying he fabricated a fiscal government revenue crisis. They overspent. He's playing games too early, her aides are saying. What do you think?
Oh, I hate to say, I don't think I'd ever think that she was right, but she is right on this. She's afraid because she knows most New Yorkers statewide don't like this.
All right, Congressman Jeff Van Drew, it's great to see you. Just come back soon.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate when you join us.
And look, Adams had his problems, no question about that. But here's what Mamdani conveniently leaves out. Even if every criticism of Adams is true, it doesn't change the fundamental math problem. The city comptroller laid it out in stark terms. There's a $2.2 billion shortfall for the current fiscal year ending in June, and then a staggering $10.4 billion gap projected for fiscal year 2027. And this isn't because the economy is bad. Actually, tax revenues in New York City have increased by 7% this year. Wall Street bonuses are hitting record highs approaching $50 billion. The problem isn't that New York doesn't have money coming in. The problem is all the money going out.
Yeah. But Zoran said he's got it covered. He's got a plan on how he's going to get this paid for. Remember?
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
It's that the city already spends far too much money on programs that don't work.
Much like trying to tax the rich, which, by the way, Zoran, you can't actually do that, okay? And a part of your campaign promises, did you promise to let trash just pile up on the city streets and do absolutely nothing about it? Did you promise them that? Would you promise them more of that if they reelect you?
Again, New Yorkers who voted for socialist Zoran Mamdani, hoping for free bus rides, are now wishing for something more basic, a cleared sidewalk, so the elderly, people with disabilities, parents with strollers, and all of the residents can actually get around instead of wading through snow and piles of garbage. Here is one of the videos that's now going viral all over the place, showing you what's really going on in New York City. Take a look.
This is blowing my. You see how this lady can't even barely get across the street because y'all want to shovel the snow wrong?
That's mama. I'm slippery here.
Because they wrong. Why would they shovel it like this?
How do disabled people travel in the snow in New York City? Because chances are they don't. I was just privileged enough to have my boyfriend help me yesterday. I had to go into work for a grant proposal, and no one was forcing me to go, and it's okay, don't worry. For the most part, we had to stay in the street because the sidewalks were just not safe. And thankfully, my boyfriend was there to push me through the snow, but without him, I would have been housebound this whole week. Even for Accessoride, my boyfriend and the driver had to physically pick up my wheelchair and place it onto the lift so I could get in the van because the lift wasn't landing properly with all that snow on the side of the road. I also couldn't push myself because my rims were covered in ice.
I can't lie. The disdain that the city had this year for not shoveling like the corners and the crosswalks. Like, as a mother with a young child in a stroller, if nobody told y'all yet, y'all some idiots.
So it's been 1 week since the big snowfall in New York City, and we still have sidewalks that look like this. Now, I'm not sure how logistically hard it is to properly clean the crosswalks, but I mean, does it take like community action for people to clean their own sidewalks? I'm just thinking about people in wheelchairs or people with strollers. They can't even get from the sidewalk to the street.
Now, New York, we need to do better. Because why am I sitting here every time I gotta cross the street? I gotta hop over a hurdle of fucking snow to cross the street. Like, the fuck? We need to do better. I'm not no Olympian. It's too cold. I'm out of breath. We need to figure this shit out now.
There you go. You're watching the dirtiness of New York City. A lot of people are complaining, man. They're complaining. And of course, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame a man by the name of Zoran Mamdani. And unfortunately for Zoran, he's getting a taste of what it's already been like, right? Because this is what New York City not only has been like, but now it seems to get worse, right? Because like now he's the Democrat that came to save the day. He's not even a Democrat. He's a socialist for real, right? He's hijacked the party along with a lot of different progressives. And people are starting to realize that in times of need, good luck, depending on Democrats or the government to come and help you, especially in New York City.
He's coming to save the day. Perhaps maybe Zohran Mamdani should have stayed in hiding, because what he just did is an absolute embarrassment, okay? An absolute embarrassment to anyone and everyone living in New York City, and worse, those who voted for him to have this position. And I'm not even talking about his Carhartt jacket yet. We'll get to that, folks. I'm talking about Mayor Mamdani, who just visited a man who got shot while charging at a cop with a knife, okay? Mamdani, according to this reply here to the New York Post headline that says "killed by kindness," is off to a great start. Can you sense the facetious tone in my voice there? But I want to expand a little bit on this. The cop not only separated himself from the man charging at him, but also closed the door in between himself and the assailant before having to finally defend himself. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is excellent police work. But apparently Mamdani clearly hates police. Again, Mayor Mamdani just visited a man who got shot. The man who got shot while charging at a cop with a knife. And you wonder why, or at least I don't wonder, but so many cops are resigning and leaving the force, no longer wanting to put their lives on the line for a city and a man who clearly doesn't give a shit about them. New Yorkers shocked and appalled after the Ugandan mayor Zohran Mamdani visits and consoles the man who tried to kill a cop with a knife. No family should have to endure this pain, he says. Jeez.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family and I visited Chavez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Baba, no! Hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Move! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family.
So no family should have to endure this pain. But New York City police officers should? How many times did he tell that man to put the knife down? How many opportunities did he give that man to put the knife down? He even backed away, retreated, closed the door, and this man is still charging at him with a knife. He's lucky he only got shot. And folks, I'm going to have to pause here for a moment and pick this back up a little bit later. I just got some alarming news of a very personal situation that I must attend to, and I will be back later. But I'll say that we were both pretty surprised and shocked to see just how busy and how few parking spots there were available at our little old emergency room here on a Wednesday afternoon. But the staff here is great, and I believe we are in good hands and being well taken care of. So, okay. So we have good news, and I will allow Michelle to update everyone. So go check out her channel, ST Talks, and probably not today, but in the near future, she'll clue you in on the latest. So, yeah, where were we? It's better to err on the side of caution. You know what I mean? All right. Now, where were we? Oh, yeah, right here.
So New York City viral video from Manhattan's Upper East Side shows homeless man huddled over steaming manhole for warmth. Goodness. Amid heavy snow-piled trash and freezing temperatures, reports claim that at least 16 homeless deaths linked to the code since Mayor Zohran Mamdani took office in less than 30 days. So less than 30 days, all of these things have happened. As you can see, the New York Post has written. I'm hoping that man, ended up actually. Let me not even show too much of this because I don't really want to talk too much about this, but I do want to talk about the issue here about the extreme cold that hit New York City and the death toll rising to about 16. As Mamdani said, none lived in homeless encampments.
Yeah. So this is what I was talking about earlier, guys. And like, does that make it okay? Does that make it all right? Because none of these folks lived in homeless encampments.
So 16 people have died outdoors in New York City during the extended stretch of extreme cold. Zohran Mamdani said Monday as the city marked its 11th consecutive day below freezing temperatures. So, man, what a time to be alive here. And everybody is talking about it. Everybody is talking about it. Of course, the mainstream media trying their best to help Zohran, but the New York Post says killed by kindness.
The mainstream media is not trying their best to help. The mainstream media is trying their best to aid in this cover-up, this distraction, because that's the thing about the mainstream media. They don't want to try and debate or challenge what's happening. They would rather pretend that it's not happening and just not report on it. And I got to show you guys this one because I saw this one. Actually, I saw this one as I was sitting in the lobby, the waiting room of the ER. And there's an entire Subaru WRX underneath the snow. Like, that is terrible. That is awful. I don't know. I don't know if that car, I don't know the weight of that on that car. I don't know if it's going to survive being buried like that. If anybody knows where that is, 63rd Street. And I can't see what avenue that is, but yeah. So is the media going to report on this? Probably not. Why would they?
And now, as if to pour gasoline on the fire.
Oops, my bad. Let me pour a little bit more gasoline on that fire because maybe it'll help burn off some of that snow. Because here we have Zohran. Oh my God. Zohran the moron. You're so vain. Mamdani couldn't handle the snowstorm, but at least he made a custom embroidered jacket. Mamdani ripped over hunt for personalized Carhartt jacket ahead of winter storm that left 16 New Yorkers dead. The city is still a mess, but he's got his brand new customized Zohran custom Carhartt jacket. No problem too big, no task too small. Yeah. I think the dead guys would beg to differ. I think the dead homeless guys would beg to differ. Okay. That's just me. This is my take.
Enter Zohran Mamdani. And he wants to spend an additional $10 billion on social welfare programs. Remember, there's no problem too big or issue too small that the government can't address, right? Okay, fine. Simple. Good. So here's a comparably simple question. How are you going to pay for it? No problem, Zohran. Okay. How are you planning to pay for this promised socialist utopia?
Zoran's like, look, I done already told you. I done told you how I'm going to pay for it. Okay. So quit asking me about that.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
Well, his answer is the same old tired refrain we always hear from the left. Well, we're going to tax the rich. Now, I want you to think about that. Right there. How are you going to pay for it? We're going to tax the rich. So this guy claims to be so enlightened. He's so innovative. He's so hip. There's no problem too big, no issue too small he can't fix. And then when asked, okay, how are you going to pay for that fix, he falls back on the same old, tired, stale, thoroughly refuted notion of taxing the rich.
Yeah, taxing the rich in this socialist society that we all know it doesn't work, okay? There's how many times, what is the track record here of history of this actually working? 0, okay? Why? Because Donald Trump. And meanwhile, you've got President Trump not trying to tax the rich and also trying to reduce the tax of the poor or better yet, as he stated, the middle class, the middle income. Okay.
A deduction on the interest payment if you borrow money. So think of it, rich people get so many deductions. I'm the king of deductions. I love deductions. But people, middle income people, never had a deduction before. Now
I'm going to relate New York City and Zohran Mamdani's lofty dreams to that of Canada, for which you can see how much pushback Carney has exhibited towards President Trump's sound mind and logic. And this just in, Canada's economy is in recession, economist says. Seems to me New York's economy is in recession, or at least it soon will be, if not already having such a tremendous multi-billion-dollar deficit isn't the key indicator here.
He's already giving away the game. He's already showing himself to be a total charlatan. He claims to be innovative, and yet he literally has no creative ideas in terms of how to pay for that supposed innovation. He has no programs that haven't already been attempted in Cuba and Venezuela. He's just another socialist hack who now wants to raise taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. There's just one problem. Reality just bit him in the arse hard. And now, more and more of his supporters, as you just saw, are realizing they got duped. Wait until you see this.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if I would consider these folks to have been supporters, but Zohran Mamdani's latest push to try and make ICE illegal in New York City, or at least from the standpoint of inside New York City penitentiaries, well, that just backfired. As we see here, a victory in New York after hundreds of patriots turned out in protest. The Rockland County Legislature Board has pulled the Sanctuary County bill. ICE will remain in Rockland, New York. The overflow crowd outside the meeting cheered USA in celebration upon hearing the news.
The problem for Mamdani? New York Governor Kathy Hochul. She's already basically said no, nada, to virtually everything he wants. She's made it crystal clear she's not going to greenlight his tax increases. Remember, the New York State Constitution requires that all tax increases actually have to go through Albany, the state legislature. Mamdani does not have the power to raise taxes.
Yeah, it may sound great on a hot take, a soundbite on paper, on a flyer, or propaganda that you post on TikTok to get your supporters behind you for socialism, for which if you really ask these people if they knew what socialism really meant, they would probably tell you that they don't. They just like his vibe, or they dislike Cuomo or whatever. And so you got to think about it. They liked Zohran's vibe. They disliked Cuomo. No one ever had anything to say about Sliwa. And all Sliwa did was prevent New York City from being taken over by this socialist, possibly kin to Jeffrey Epstein.
The New York City Council does not have the power to raise taxes. The only legislative body in the state that can raise taxes is the state government in Albany, signed by the governor. So in many respects, what Mamdani was doing when he was making all of these insane and asinine promises is he was putting all the pressure, all the onus on Hochul, the governor, which she didn't appreciate, even though she endorsed him during the campaign. He's not the one who's going to be raising the taxes. He's not the one that's going to be actually funding all that these socialist programs require. It was the New York State legislator that was going to have to do that. It was the governor's signature that was going to have to do that. And he conveniently left that out of the campaign. And Hochul is now calling his bluff. She's saying there's no way in hell that New York is going to be raising taxes on a population that's already one of the most taxed. if the Republicans get their act together and find someone like Lee Zeldin to run.
You know, the infighting amongst the Democrats is always interesting and entertaining. And even, granted, unrelated, but in Texas, Jasmine Crockett now pretending she never liked Nicki Minaj and she was a Cardi B fan anyway. Like, they wear their hearts on their sleeves, or I don't even know if they really have hearts, really, if you think about it. But now you've got Kathy Hochul challenging Zoran because she's not going to give up her possible re-election as governor to tax the very same people she relies on as donors to support her. And so Zoran, Zoran already looks bad. He's just going to continue to look worse. Now, not that I think he really cares, despite he is so vain with his customized Carhartt jacket. But he's already got what he wanted. He's in place, and he's actually putting others in place in these positions, which is got to be like, all I'll say is that if you're a white person, Zoran Mamdani is not going to consider you for any cabinet position, any role. And that one lady on YouTube or TikTok, the only reason she gets a pass, I don't even know if she's white. Maybe she's not white. And if she is, she gets a pass because she has access to the children. And you know how these Democrats like brainwashing and they're how pedophile. Yeah, you know the word I'm trying to say. And
as a result, Hochul is now starting to shut down all of those promises one by one. Free buses? Nope. As a matter of fact, we'll make it even worse. The first week of January, just 3 days after Mamdani was sworn into office, subway and bus fares throughout the city actually went up.
You know, it's actually ironic and kind of funny at the same time, whereas Tennessee is experiencing harsh winter weather. And granted, Elon Musk isn't a Tennessee resident. He isn't a part of the Tennessee government. He's not mayor or anything. And Elon Musk says, hey, you know what? During these times, these hard times in Tennessee, the superchargers are free. Zoran Mamdani campaigned on a promise of giving free bus rides, for which he can't, and he hasn't, and he probably never will and won't. And Elon Musk just says, hey, you know what? If you drive a Tesla, or if you need a supercharger for which you have an adapter for, then free charging.
They increased to $3. The very first order of business for the new Mamdani administration was to oversee transportation costs going up. And then he wanted the city to buy up thousands of apartments for state-subsidized housing, and a judge shot that down. So after just days in office, the free buses his supporters were promised aren't happening. In fact, fares are more expensive than before he took office. And that subsidized housing he promised, not happening. Judge shot that down. And now reality is hitting even harder. All those programs he promised would cost somewhere between, say, $7 billion and $10 billion annually. Universal child care alone is $6 billion a year. That's equal to the entire budget of the NYPD. He making all those promises, and then all of a sudden he has to announce we're all walking straight into a $12.6 billion deficit that he's got to close.
And it's not that he didn't know. Eric Adams made it abundantly clear. And look, I'm not sharing this as a way to just say I told you so and rub salt in the wound, but it does need to be on record, because with what we have coming up, we need as many people as possible to understand and realize that when the Democrats lied to you, or even worse, a Democratic socialist lies to you, or even worse, a communist lies to you and promises you pie in the sky, do not vote for that. Do not vote for that, okay?
So where's the money coming from for all those promises? The answer is simple, and let's be blunt. It's not. That's the answer. The money isn't there. It's never been there. And that's the dirty little secret. It was never going to be there in the first place.
It wasn't much of a secret. I could have told you that. In fact, I could probably go back to the videos that I made before they voted for him and he was mayor-elect and then sworn in. It's no secret. This shit don't work.
New York socialists are learning the hard way that free stuff isn't free. And someone has always got to pay for it. When you're already $12.6 billion in the hole, adding another $10 billion in new programs isn't bold leadership. It's fiscal insanity. It's talking about square circles. 2 + 2 = 5. Men can be women.
They can't, by the way. It's not possible.
Mamdani's supporters should be learning an important lesson right now. When a smooth-talking politician promises you everything, he's probably lying. When someone tells you that they can give you free buses, free childcare, free everything, and it won't hurt, no sacrifice, they're selling you a fantasy.
You know, think about it. The media, the left, wanted to challenge President Trump's idea of lowering and eliminating federal income tax. Not because he said, I just want you guys to have free everything, but he wanted to turn it from and change it from the Internal Revenue Service to the External Revenue Service, which meant other people, other countries would pay for those that loss in revenue from our tax dollars that are wasted egregiously, by the way. We need to talk about that, but save that for another video. And so fast forward, and now we can see the effects that tariffs have had, how our economy is doing or booming, how the taxpayers are going to see the increase in their refund and return this year, thanks to President Trump and this new increase to standardized deductions. Zohran Mamdani says, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give you this. Whereas Trump's saying, look, we should have this, and this is how we're going to get it, and this is where we're going to offset. And as president, you can trust and believe that. Now, Zohran as mayor, granted, I guess he does. I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend. I'll shoot it to you straight, down the middle. We'll call balls and strikes here. Zohran says free, 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 free. And we're going to get the money from rich billionaire, trillionaire, XYZ. Well, billionaires. Elon Musk is going to be the first trillionaire, and I don't think he's paying any New York City taxes. So there's that. But he can't do that. Zohran can't get that money. And just like the rich and wealthy are fleeing California, I saw another one today of someone buying a multi-million-dollar mansion in Florida to get away from California's insane taxes on the high-income earners. New York City, if New York City got that bad, would have the same outcome, which I don't think they will. Fortunately, I think Kathy Hochul will shut that down. But unfortunately, New York has to go through a little bit of a struggle phase.
Reality doesn't care about your ideology. And in New York City, reality is about to teach a very expensive lesson about the difference between campaign promises and actual governance. The chickens are coming home to roost for Zohran Mamdani, and we're only 1 month into his already failed administration.
If this is just 1 month, imagine 1 year. Good Lord. Hey, guys, I appreciate you bearing with me through this one. It's a little bit sloppy maybe and cut up and chopped up and not my norm, but I think you understand why. Thank you so much. If you like the video, like the video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, because subscribing to the channel really does help out a lot. We did cross 316,000 subscribers, so thank you for that. And I look forward to coming back to you guys again tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your evening, and God bless.
When I come around, they all gonna skip town like they owe me money or try to Obi-Wan me. Then I went Anakin, now they all panicking. You could be perfectly dressed, it won't make you a man again. You don't even smell the kind of shit that you standing in. Jumped out the window, don't know what you landed in. Cop blocking motherfuckers made me switch up the plan again. Okay, guess what? Nigga, I was built for this. I was born for this. They won't admit that they watch me like a porno flick. The rap game is a toilet. I be on some shit. I'm beyond your shit.
Unfiltered. I'm not unapologetic. I'm not trying to talk about it. Unlike anyone else. But knowing y'all will probably make me. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show.
What's up, everybody? We're going to get
Welcome
into the
to the latest
Stephen A.
edition of the Stephen A.
Smith.
Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every
Turn
weekday
coat.
from 1 to 3 p.m.
Cardinal
Eastern Standard Time over the airwaves of SiriusXM. Mad Dog Sports Radio. Number to call up as always is 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. Once again, 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. A lot of stuff to get into. NFL, NBA, definitely college football. With yet the latest firing taking place, the latest buyout taking place. Some of this stuff is absolutely extraordinary. It's a lot of stuff that we'll get into. But the first thing that I wanted to get into was this. The Steelers defense is just not good. I just want to get this out of the way. Some obvious stuff to get out of the way, yes.
Nah, we ain't doing that. We out of there.
Jackson shit. Nueve.
All right, everybody, get in here. You are going to love every second of this live stream. We are going to go all over the place. Ice has completely and totally defeated, Boy Wonder, Spirit Fingers up there, Governor Walls, and Jacob Trey. They all of a sudden disappeared pretty soon. We have a big, stunning teaser announcement that came out that's going to drop tomorrow. You guys are going to find all about that out right now because that just happened. And then there's some other reality that's coming in like a meteor, going to hit the Democrats directly on the forehead with this one. You guys are going to love this episode. Like the Men's Warehouse, I guarantee it. And as you guys get in here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. I don't know why we turned the notification bell on. It hasn't been doing anything all week, but we have faith that we're going to do it. And you guys can make that pesky notification bell get off his mom's couch, out of his mom's basement, simply by engaging with the stream, engaging with the chat. Hit that little emoji button, hit some likes, hit some shares. It's all free. Why not? And besides that, the notification bell is genuinely being like a real pain this week. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I know you guys are doing amazing work, and something else, you guys are awesome as we're getting into this. Make sure you are taking your deputizations responsibilities very seriously. You guys are deputized to go in and encounter those roving lefties that seem to have become our lefty groupies on the channel. We love having them here. We're going to convert them, but you guys handle it. Defend the chat's honor with your best, brightest, and everything else that you can imagine. We're going to have a hell of a time in this live stream, whether they copy and paste or not. It's going to be a good time. All right, guys, as always, we're going to hit the normal to-dos, comments, chats, emojis, make the world go round. And then we're going to be off to the races because this one is going to be a really good episode. You're really going to like it, particularly when you find out who is teasing running for president tomorrow. Y'all, it might be about to get really fun. Bear with me. Emojis make the world go round. All right, you guys know the rules. Once it is pinned, once it is good to go, we are off to the races. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're missing out. All right. Guys, this is the part of the show, if you are new, where we dive into the appetizers of the entire entree of freedom of which we offer, dispelling propaganda left, right, and center wherever we find it. There just happens to be a plethora of that said propaganda of which we are just playing duck hunt with, to be quite honest with you, and we're doing it on the daily. So if you're enjoying this, make sure you stick around because we're about to have a whole lot of fun. Guys, this is what's taking the spot of the stupid today. Okay, for this episode, we're just going to zoom out a little bit. Now, normally, you would have lefty accounts on X being really excited about taking voter share in places like, I don't know, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona. I mean, no reason I chose those states. I mean, it's only like they're swing states and really important to the Electoral College. But nope, guys, apparently you may have missed it, and this is going to tie into all the tabs of freedom that we have here later through this episode. You may have missed it, but apparently when they register more Democrats than Republicans in California, they're, quote, "We are so back." Y'all, I don't even know sometimes how to properly respond. Your big win here to say we are so back and to take a MAGA line around Trump is to say that you register more Democrats in California? That's like registering more fish in the ocean. I mean, like, that doesn't even I wouldn't even say that. I would just be like, thank God we're getting back to baseline. I wouldn't be like, whoo, man, we are cooking with gas. I'm just kind of out of order, just going to stab in the dark. Oh my God, Democrat approval rating is a -42. You hate to see it. All right, well, let's go back. We're going back to that in a second. But yeah, guys, that's one of the big things. That's just one of them. We got some other news items to hit too, because apparently it's just upside down world. We're just going to make whatever up we want. And we're just going to pass it off as truth. So this one right here is something that you would expect to see in a real world scenario. Like in a state in the Northeast, that would be a pretty important one, like New Hampshire. New Hampshire just dropped their first registration update of the year, and the GOP's at 315,000, while the Democrats are at 266,000. The GOP has a 50,000 registration advantage over Democrats. Wait for it. Over the last 5 years, Democrat voters on the rolls have plummeted 23%. Oh my God, we are so back. Y'all, they're living in a paid propaganda world, and it is showing. And then there's this little nougat, which I also want to drop on you because it's all tied together. Did you guys hear, and I'm sure you did, somewhere, somehow, some way, that the Supreme Court has ruled a tremendous win for the Democrats? They're allowing them to change their seats per the legislature in California. It's the biggest news that you've ever seen. This is unprecedented. They are so back. It's a complete and total victory. Every single hope and dream of Donald Trump has been shattered, torn asunder on the rocks of the SCOTUS. Or SCOTUS just said, yeah, no, both California and Texas can both draw their own maps. It's cool. What are we doing? Like, my God. All you heard from lefties today was that California is allowed to use this new map. You didn't hear a word about Texas being allowed to use its own map, or that both states can equally use their own maps, which is a nothing burger across the board. But don't worry, California can use its own maps. Big win. LFG, let's effing go. I mean, like, y'all, it's getting pathetic. Speaking of pathetic, I'm gonna burn right past this break. This is something we gotta see. Guys, did you hear this? Here we go. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. Legitimately, the notifications just turned off this week. So all the engagement that you can do really helps the channel out, because honest to God, it's like night and day from Monday and Tuesday. Well, actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and through now. So all the help you can do, that'd be amazing. But guys, yeah, I am so excited for tomorrow. Oh my God, I hope you guys are excited for tomorrow. And I hope you've got a really amazing day planned, because you might get some news that I think you're gonna like. So we're gonna hit a few accounts here. We're gonna tie all of this together, because you guys know how I like to deliver these episodes. They're like little breadcrumbs of freedom all throughout the woods, like Hansel and Gretel style, right? This just dropped about an hour ago, and I want you to just see what's happening real quick, and then watch the responses, which of course is completely organic from all the lefties online. Watch this. Kamala HQ logging in. That's a weird screen recording. Why would you do that? Project 2025 was right. Headquarters. Oh, we're logging in to.
This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. Melinda Gates has broken her silence over the horrific allegations coming out of the Epstein files. Millions of pages of files have been released by the DOJ, and plenty of powerful people have been named. One of them being Bill Gates, Microsoft founder and vaccine guru. In the newly released documents, being emails Epstein sent to himself in 2013, Epstein appears to be accusing Bill Gates of being with Russian girls, contracting an STD, and was also writing emails about how to secretly drug his ex-wife with medication so he could get away with it. Bill Gates denies all of this, but his ex-wife, Melinda Gates, has broken her silence, and she wants answers about the allegations. This is what she had to say in a podcast with NPR.
Emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad.
Wow. Melinda Gates goes on to say that this reminds her of a very painful time in her marriage, that no girl should have ever been put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever else may have been going on with all of the people around him. And she wants those people, including her ex-husband, the saviour of health, to start answering questions and ultimately for there to be justice for the alleged victims in all of this, because this is beyond heartbreaking. Although millions of documents have been made public recently, these are only half of the files. Millions of documents are still being hidden. And the world deserves to know the truth about what happened. And we will be discussing this more with our panel coming up. We'll also get the very latest on the escalating tensions with Iran as the US shoots down an Iranian drone. Josh Hammer and Joe Siracusa will be joining us for that. Plus, Charlie Kirk's suspected killer returns to court. We'll be crossing to Washington, D.C., where we'll be joined by CJ Pearson, and also the royal family is well and truly in damage control as disgraced former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moves out of Royal Lodge. We'll be getting all the details from London with Andrew Eborn. But America's Medicare system is on another level. Millions of seniors end up on the wrong plan every year. They either overpay, lose access to their doctors, or both, not because they did anything wrong, but because the system is designed to confuse them. And it gets worse. A lot of Medicare advisors are really just salespeople pushing whichever plan pays them the biggest commission. That's why I want to tell all of my American Power Hour viewers about Chapter. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance or the government. They're independent. In fact, they are the only advisor that compares every Medicare plan nationwide to find one that actually fits your needs. On average, that saves people about $1,100 a year. Just have a read of the testimonials. One woman, Jill, said that Chapter showed her better options that didn't even appear on the Medicare.gov website. That is how broken the system is and just how valuable it is to have someone truly on your side. So if you're looking for Medicare guidance, don't go it alone. Call the number below to speak with Chapter and get clear, unbiased guidance on your Medicare options. Joining us now is our panel, political analyst Joe Siracusa and senior editor-at-large of Newsweek, Josh Hammer. Thank you both for joining us. Let's start with Iran. Tensions between the US and Iran are escalating. Overnight, the US shot down an Iranian drone targeting the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. Iranian officials are now warning that they might pull out of negotiations with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner that had been scheduled to take place in Turkey on Friday. Joe Siracusa, can I get your analysis of what is happening at the moment and the direction that this is going?
Good morning, and I guess it's good evening, Josh, where you are in South Florida. Look, we have been at war with Iran since 1979, okay? And we've been going at it, and we've threatened them, and we've used we're using today, what they call, Tom Schelling called compellence diplomacy, later refined to coercive diplomacy, where we're trying to get them to do what we want them to do, and that is stop killing their own people, stop enriching uranium, and that kind of thing. And of course, they're going to hit back. Now, look, Iran is sort of paper tiger in one way. I mean, I don't think they can resist combined American and Israeli airplanes and stuff like that. But it's as big as the size of Europe, almost twice the size of Texas. It's got 92 million people. And I know in my long career of observing and writing books and watching, Trump's my 14th president, you can't really win any of these wars. I mean, you can't go to war unless you have foot soldiers. I mean, you actually have to go in. That's what prevented George H.W. Bush the first time going in Iraq. He said he didn't want to direct traffic in downtown Baghdad. And so, we're trying to get them to do the right thing. And of course, Trump has promised them a little bit of help, the dissidents a little bit of help. And look, we all know the bravery of the Persians. The Persians didn't fall out of the trees yesterday. These people have thousands of years of history and pride and all the rest of it. And I'm sure there are many people there who are disgusted with the mullahs, the economy, and the rest of it. But if we start invading a place and putting foreign boots on foreign soils, we're going to create a few more enemies here than we want, because people get very testy about their land.
And Josh, do you agree with that? I know Trump has repeatedly warned that Iran risks being attacked if it doesn't do a deal to give up its nuclear program. But at the moment, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, so I broadly agree with what we just heard from Joe. Look, my own personal style of foreign policy is I'm not a huge fan of, let's call it, red line foreign policy. My own personal style and my preference would be that you kind of follow Teddy Roosevelt back in the day insofar as you speak softly and carry a big stick. Alexander Hamilton wrote in the Federalist number 70, one of our great essays on behalf of the Constitution's ratification. Back in the 1780s, Alexander Hamilton famously wrote that in the executive, in the single man executive, there is secrecy and dispatch. So that's kind of more style, is more secrecy, dispatch, more deliberations, and ultimately coming to a conclusion, as opposed to this red line stuff. But Donald Trump did draw a red line, Gabriella, to your point, and he was very, very clear about this. He put on Truth Social about a week into the protest there in the first week of January. He said, look, if the regime starts massacring its own people, then we are going to take action. And then about 2 weeks later, he said that the Iranian people, go ahead and take the streets, go ahead and try to retake your institutions. Help is on the way. I mean, this is about as clear a red line as you can possibly get. And this red line has not merely been crossed. It has been utterly trampled over. It has been utterly eviscerated. We don't even know the exact number of Iranians who have been slaughtered. It's virtually impossible to say. Right now, I think a conservative estimate would be somewhere between 25 and 40,000. I'm seeing some numbers potentially as high as 80 to 100,000. We just don't know. But it's a shockingly high number. It's one of the worst massacres of regime on its own people in our entire lifetime. And again, to me, at this point, the repercussions of not doing something are likely going to be even worse than whatever the repercussions would be of actually doing something there. It's not just that Donald Trump has made this red line threat, Gabriella. He has taken his armada and he has taken it to the Middle East. This whole infrastructure is there. I think backing down would be really catastrophic at this point.
All those people killed and not one celebrity mentioned Iran at the Grammys. Let's talk about the newly released Epstein files. We know that former US President Bill Clinton and his wife, former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, have now caved, agreeing to testify in the congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. This comes days before the Republican-led US House of Reps was expected to vote to hold both Clintons in criminal contempt over their resistance of legal summonses. Now, several pictures of Bill Clinton appeared in the files released by the DOJ. Of course, we have to say Bill Clinton has denied any wrongdoing. Joe, can I get your thoughts around this? I think there needs to be more than a congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, but what do you make of this development?
I mean, it's very interesting. Look, Bill Clinton is a sleazebag. He's been sleazy, when he was governor of Arkansas and then president, and everybody heard rumors, and then he got caught and all the rest of it. I mean, he brought the office of the presidency into disrepute. I don't think there's any more mileage in embarrassing this guy. I mean, when he's being questioned under a subpoena and all the rest of it, he's got to tell the truth, or his version of the truth. I mean, he's trying to avoid the contempt charge. And Hillary, I think her time is come and gone. That is, there's no more political mileage in getting embarrassing her. She's already had kind of an embarrassing end to her career anyway. But what bothers me about the Epstein thing is what looks like normalcy. It got all these captains of industry and politicians and royalty hanging out with Epstein, and some lawyers who should have known better, as a matter of fact. And he's starting to give the impression that what he's doing is all right. Well, it's not all right. I mean, I was very suspicious when he got off the hook the first time, and the prosecutor who let him off the hook didn't really have a very good explanation, as a matter of fact. And so, there's a lot of things about Epstein that we're going to find out. Now, we got, 3.5 million pieces of information. There are 2.5 million pieces to go. I'm amazed there's so many millions of pieces on this guy. And I don't think no one's going to find a smoking gun on President Trump. There's smoke, all right, but he knew the guy and he knew everybody who knew everybody else. But the Epstein thing is going to be investigated further because the American people, and these are good Republicans and good Democrats, who want to take this thing a little bit further. But I'll tell you, one thing that bothers me about this is that in his whole career, we have not heard a single story, email, or anecdote about anybody who fronted Epstein's behavior and just punched him in the face. I grew up with a nice family on the south side of Chicago. I had a very polite Catholic father, a very polite Jewish mother, and that kind of behavior would never have been tolerated. Somebody would have punched someone in the face. The idea that no captain of industry stood up to this guy strikes me as devastating. The young lady who committed suicide in Australia, who wrote her memoirs, she said at the end she got very discouraged about anything coming out of the Epstein files because she said she realized after a while that everybody at the upper levels of American society regarded this behavior as normal. Well, there's nothing normal about what they were doing. And God knows what else he was doing beside corrupting these people. He's probably setting up people for blackmail, and he was wheeling and dealing. I mean, there's a lot of things there that people will be looking at hundreds of years after this conversation about how American society worked. But look, the whole thing stinks, and I think a lot more people are going to be caught up in this. And yes, there should be a full investigation. The American people will want to take this one to the end.
Yeah, we deserve the truth 100%, and there are still so many questions. Josh, can I get your assessment?
Yeah, look, I think everyone knows at this point that Bill Clinton was a heck of a lot closer to Jeffrey Epstein than Donald Trump was. For what's worth, Donald Trump actually kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Jeffrey Epstein was actually a member of Mar-a-Lago, and as soon as Donald Trump actually learned of these deeply sordid deeds that Jeffrey Epstein was affiliated with, Trump actually kicked him out and took away his membership card. And frankly, Gabrielle, one of my working theories is that this is actually the reason that Jeffrey Epstein became something of an anti-Trump provocateur in his later years. We actually saw these text exchanges. He was texting the non-voting representative from the U.S. Virgin Islands during that Michael Cohen hearing in Congress back in 2019 there. He really had this deep-rooted anti-Trump animus, all these texts and emails with Michael Wolff as well. My working theory of the case is that Jeffrey Epstein was the kind of guy who basically knew everyone, that he was palling around, hobnobbing with the rich and famous. Donald Trump was one of the only people who, to Joe's point, kind of had anything in him to kind of stand up and say, no, I'm actually not going to be associated with this there. So that's my theory as to why Epstein was so anti-Trump, especially in his later years. Now, is anything going to happen from Bill and Hillary Clinton testifying? Probably not. They're probably going to take the Fifth Amendment over and over and over again there. I could actually potentially see a way in which Democrats tried to somehow make this actually redound to their interest. Maybe they try to ask questions, Bill Clinton, tell us about the GDP growth when you were president, try to kind of play up with the notion that the Democrats are very good at handling the economy there, this whole information operation about how Trump is overseeing an affordability crisis, which he's not. It's basically a fabrication of the media. Anyway, I'm kind of just spitballing here, but I could kind of see a way when Democrats could try to get some of their own applause lines for the cameras. Gabrielle, personally, if I'm just being very candid and blunt here, I am somewhat frustrated with the Epstein story at this point. Not that I don't care about the truth. I care a lot about the truth. Rather, just putting on my legal cap as a lawyer who clerked on a federal appeals judge and I've seen God knows many criminal indictments and whatnot in my life here. I know that the statute of limitations for the overwhelming majority of the underlying crimes that were committed here have all but assuredly passed. So while we all want justice, just putting on my legal cap here, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I do not see some sort of meaningful legal justice happening. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there's some statute that has not expired and that there's some kind of bigwig who can be carted off to prison, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 or a million, because this is really, really, really dark and nasty stuff there. But if I'm just being sober and I try to call it like I see it there, I don't necessarily see this ending with a huge amount of legal justice. Rather, I think the best that we can probably realistically hope for is political justice for those who have been involved in these sordid deeds.
Melinda Gates has broken her silence over some of the horrific allegations coming out of the files. In the newly released documents, there are allegations that Bill Gates was with Russian girls, he contracted STDs, and then was allegedly writing emails about how to secretly drug his ex-wife with medication so he could get away with it. Of course, Bill Gates denies this, but his ex-wife, Melinda Gates, has broken her silence. She says she wants answers about the allegations. This is what she had to say in a podcast with NPR.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. Joe, can I get your reaction?
Oh, look, my apologies to the lady. It's really more information than we need to know. I mean, it's a very embarrassing type of revelation. It just reminds me of how stupid Bill Gates is. I mean, to risk his reputation and his married life over going to Neverland or whatever that place was. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, Paul Samuelson, a great economist, his mother was a real hellraiser, and she said to a very rich guy one day, who said to her first, he says, he said to her, if you're so smart, how come you're not rich? And she said, well, if you're so rich, how come you're so stupid? And when I see these people, these captains of industry, pulling this kind of stuff and admitting to these kinds of things, I mean, I just wonder what the hell's going on in our minds when we put this guy and we elevate this guy. He gives a lot of money away. He's done a lot of good things, but at the end of the day, he's just kind of creepy.
I think that's an interesting point, Josh. And I was speaking to someone yesterday about the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And I think what shocks so many people is how stupid they are, that they've been okay with being photographed in these compromising positions. And Bill Gates, although he denies these emails suggest that he was planning on giving his wife medication secretly after getting an STD.
Well, I mean, this is why the Epstein saga has so many people who are asking questions as to what the heck was going on here, right? I mean, because how could so many people be so stupid? How could nobody blow the whistle for so long when it came to the horrific underage, sex trafficking rings and all the various other terrible things that were happening at Epstein Island? I mean, there's a million questions going on here. How the heck did Jeffrey Epstein get his money? How the heck did he get the Rolodex that he got there? How was he hobnobbing with heads of states? How was he? I mean, the guy knew everyone. He knew absolutely everyone there. So, I mean, it's kind of the perfect fodder for conspiracy theorists, right? I mean, you have basically everything imaginable. You have the heads of state, you have wealth, you have an island in the Caribbean, you have girls, you have this. I mean, you have everything imaginable that could kind of make the mind real. And here we are, and it's been roughly 2 decades, give or take, since a lot of his underlying conduct happened. And we really still don't have a whole lot of the answers there. And we've now seen millions and millions of emails, millions and millions of documents. The Trump administration, to their credit, they did not initially handle this the absolute best they could. I think that'd be a very polite way of saying it. Less last summer. It was not their finest hour. I've said that over and over and over again. But they are now playing by the rules. Congress passed a statute force in their hand. And I think that people kind of deserve to know as much as they possibly can there. But again, Gabriella, if I'm just being very candid here, and I know that there are some folks on my side of the aisle who don't necessarily agree with this point, I personally am more focused on kind of the day-to-day issues that are affecting Americans in the here and present. I'm more focused personally on the cost of groceries, on the inflation price, on the southern border, on the ICE Border Patrol debate there. So I really hope that we can get some sort of resolution to the to this Epstein story, and more transparency I think will go a long way towards that. The Clinton testify, and hopefully I think we'll try to heal a lot of wounds as well there. But ultimately, I really do hope that we can somehow find a way to move on to the issues that are really affecting Americans more tangibly on a day-to-day basis right now.
No, that's absolutely a fair point. I want to talk about what's happening overseas in Italy. Violent clashes have broken out during a large protest in Turin, Italy over the weekend as anarchists and leftists attacked police, prompting Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to strongly condemn the unrest and vow a firm response. She said on X that violence against police and threats to the public order would not be tolerated. Joe, can I get your response, your assessment of what's unfolded in Italy?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting development, but look, Italy's always handled these things pretty well. You know, people forget that when we had terrorism in Italy, the Red Brigade, the Italians beat these guys up, and they didn't have a major a terrorist or anarchist type attack in Italy for many, many decades, as a matter of fact. The Italians know how to respond to this, and, you know, all my people came from Sicily, which I'm sure provided a lot of terror, a lot of anarchists in the mix 150 years ago. But look, it just shows you that in Italy, which is run pretty well, by the way, by regions, federal government's never impressed me very much, is that there are some elements out of control. And we've seen this behavior skip oceans. You know, in the 60s, we had 25 American cities burning, and now we're seeing cities or this kind of behavior elsewhere. And I hope it doesn't pick up on the United States, because we don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, Josh, it's interesting. We're looking at the vision now. It's pretty extraordinary. We'll just read you more of what Giorgia Meloni had to say. She said, "This morning I went to the hospital in Turin to bring on behalf of Italy my solidarity to two of the officers who were injured in yesterday's clashes," adding, "Against them hammers, Molotov cocktails, nail-filled paper bombs and stones launched with catapults, blunt objects of every kind to prevent police from communicating." I mean, can I get your take?
Well, Gabrielle, putting on my cap as American, I guess my first take is it's somewhat reassuring, albeit in a bizarre sense, I guess somewhat reassuring to know that we're not the only country that deals with these kind of hooligans and malcontents. I mean, every so often it's nice to be reminded that the Antifa Black Lives Matter style anarchy that has really taken America by the vice grip for the past, better part of the past decade. Sometimes I feel like it's a uniquely American phenomenon, and videos like this kind of just remind us that this sentiment really is throughout the world, and especially throughout the world where there are right-of-center leaders in charge. George Meloni is the right-of-center leader in one of the I mean, not that Italy is a U.S. or China superpower, but they are part of the G7. Italy is historically one of the more powerful nations in Europe, at least as far as kind of the after Germany nations in Europe go. It's definitely kind of a second-tier power, if nothing else, on the world stage there. And she's pretty outspoken when it comes to a lot of major right-of-center issues there. She has been pretty outspoken when it comes to the migration crisis, when it comes to the fact that Italy cannot just be kind of a dumping ground of a lot of third world, especially Islamic world refugees there. She's taken a lot of kind of culturally edgy stances there. And this is how the anarchists, this is how the leftists react to this, right? Is they simply cannot abide people who are going to have a different opinion there. They're not going to abide folks who are going to try to enforce immigration laws there, who are going to try to take an XYZ approach when it comes to the economy that they don't agree with there. There's really just no room for tolerance or civil disagreement when it comes to many folks on the left these days there. I hope that order is restored, because Italy, again, it has been something of a success. I will note that in our own hemisphere here, in the Western Hemisphere, we actually just had another election of a victorious right-winger in Costa Rica, actually, of all countries there, an inspiring 39-year-old free market candidate, pro-life candidate actually as well. So Costa Rica seemingly is now going the way of El Salvador in that particular part of the world, which is a potentially very interesting development. Javier Milei, of course, is kicking butt in Argentina. So we are seeing the rise of more of these right-of-center leaders in the mold of a Donald Trump, in the mold of a Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, Viktor Orban in Hungary, and now George Meloni in Italy as well there. But unfortunately, with strong conservative leadership, Gabrielle, definitely comes a price as well.
Senior editor at Large Newsweek, Josh Hammer, and political analyst, Professor Joe Siracusa. Thank you both so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Let's cross to the US now. Joining us is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ, it's great to see you. Let's start with Tyler Robinson. Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. He's back in court. His legal team has been arguing that the prosecutor's office has a conflict of interest and should be removed from the case because one of the prosecutor's 18-year-old child was at Utah Valley University when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. Also, Erica Kirk, she's been pushing for meaningful media access in this trial. So there's full transparency because, as we've been seeing for some time now, there are plenty of conspiracy theories getting plenty of traction, CJ.
You know, you're exactly right. It's incredible to see Erica Kirk continuing to be as strong as she is as she navigates this process. And again, calling for transparency, which I think is probably making a lot of those conspiracy theorists very much upset because it absolutely blows up their entire narrative. You know, it's interesting to see the legal counsel of Tyler Robinson again try to delay this case. That was another motion that Erica Kirk had filed asking for a speedy trial to be conducted. Stop the delays, stop the grandstanding. Let's get justice for Charlie Kirk. Nothing's going to stand in the way of that. Erica's going to keep fighting, and I'm glad that she is.
Oh, absolutely. One woman who thought it was hilarious to watch a protester celebrate Charlie Kirk's death is the charming Jennifer Welch. And she's now using her podcast, her platform, to push deranged conspiracy theories about the president. Here is Jennifer Welch on her podcast, I've Had It, insisting that Trump's assassination attempt back in Butler was all staged.
Obviously, a lot of people are late to the party on this. A lot of people during the last presidential campaign got intoxicated by Trump's campaign. They got intoxicated by the fight photo, which I'm now going to go on the permanent record. I think he totally staged the assassination. I've watched it. I think he staged it. They lowered the flag. They let the press go in. I think he staged the whole thing. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm going blue or not. I don't care.
CJ, can I get your reaction to this?
That woman is unwell. Like, I mean, when I think about the name of her show, I've Had It. I don't know if she's talking about she's had Sauvignon Blanc, a little bit of Cab, and maybe some Don Julio tequila right before recording, because every single time she opens her mouth, she wants to bring up intoxication. I think she's intoxicated every single time she speaks and she talks. The fact that this is a woman who is allowed to go on CNN almost every other night to spar with Scott Jennings, and we're supposed to treat her as a legitimate intellectual or legitimate political commentator as she spreads conspiracy theories about the attempted assassination of the leader of the free world. Give me a break. If a Republican did the same thing about any Democrat who's a victim of brazen political violence, they would be canceled. Their career would be over. We would not treat them as a legitimate political personality and or voice. When will we hold this woman to that same standard? I'm waiting on that.
You are exactly right, CJ. I couldn't have said it better myself. I have to get your thoughts on the Grammys. Singer Billie Eilish is right now being savagely mocked and labelled a hypocrite for declaring that no one is illegal on stolen land. And of course, she said F ICE. That was what was on trend at the Grammys. Now, she made those comments while she owns a massive gated Hollywood mansion. And now the Daily Mail is reporting that the Native American tribe, the Tongva tribe, that owns land under Billie Eilish's multi-million-dollar LA mansion, said that celebrities should be explicitly referencing the tribes if they want to use them to virtue signal. CJ, do you have a message to Billie Eilish, or what did you make of this?
You just can't make this stuff up. If she really feels as if she's living on stolen land, then well, give it back, Billie. No one's stopping you. Give it to any illegal you want to. Give it to any Native American tribe you wish to. No one is stopping you, but I guarantee you she won't. If she wants to house, I assume the mansion's quite spacious, put 100 illegals in there. What is stopping her from doing so? It's the fact that she actually doesn't give a damn about any of these people. She wants to go on stage and use her white guilt to make herself feel as if she's doing something. She thinks she's probably the reincarnation of Martin Luther King Jr. when she looks in the window. None of those things are true. Put your money where your mouth is, Billy, which is apparently in the hands of illegal aliens. But mine won't be going there, so maybe you can pick up the slack for me.
Yeah, she's getting absolutely slammed for this. So are other celebrities all wearing their ICE out pins. That was the message that was on trend. Last year it was all free Palestine. This year it's all F ICE. Interesting, just talking about immigration, why we have immigration enforcement. It's not only to make America safer, of course it's doing that, but it's also to make America more affordable, CJ.
No, you're exactly right. When you have illegal aliens who are absolutely invading our country, taking up things like housing, it's driving up the cost of housing for American citizens in this country. We have an affordability crisis in many places in this country. Ironically enough, it's disproportionately in blue states and blue cities where most of these illegals go to for refuge because they know that these cities will not cooperate with ICE or the federal government that is eagerly trying to enforce immigration laws. That's actually driving citizens out of these cities because of how unaffordable it's become, because of their soft on crime and soft on immigration policies. And so you're exactly right. This isn't just about making America safe again. It's about making America more affordable again. President Trump gets it. This White House gets it. It's exactly why they will not stop, regardless of how much, folks like the mayor of Minneapolis or the governor of California and Gavin Newsom try to stand in their way.
CJ, I have to ask you about the Melania documentary. Much to the shock of Hollywood, First Lady Melania Trump's documentary has smashed its box office sales. Estimates during the opening weekend, the movie earned $7 million in ticket sales across the US and Canada, making it the best performing theatrical release for a documentary outside of concert films since 2012. I know you've seen it and I know it's being received very well. What can you tell us?
It was absolutely incredible. I had the opportunity to actually attend the premiere for the film here in Washington, D.C., and it was a crowd favorite. I'll tell you that. But also, too, it beats the experts' projections. We got to stop listening to these experts because they seemingly have not yet learned to stop betting against the Trumps. Every single time they are going to defy your expectations, defy your predictions, and Melania does that in this movie with absolute grace and class that we know her to be. This is the most iconic first lady to live in the White House since Jackie Kennedy, and they thought this was going to be a flop. They must have not been paying attention.
CJ Pearson, it is wonderful to speak with you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you, my friend.
Time now for our royal update with Andrew Eborn, UK barrister and broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew, wonderful to see you.
Always a joy to join you, Gabriella.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has reportedly moved out of his home in Windsor, the Royal Lodge. The disgraced former prince is now living in a temporary property, and this, of course, comes as pressure really mounts for him to give evidence in the United States over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Bring us the latest.
Well, he was seen on Monday on a horse around the grounds of Windsor Castle. And a lot of people felt as though it's sort of two fingers up to the establishment as more and more of these revelations came out. It's now been reported that he's moved out of this wonderful mansion he used to live in. People will recall that last year we talked about it being a peppercorn rent, which meant a sort of nominal sum. His huge 30-plus room mansion. He's now been moved to effectively a shoebox is what he's called it. So it's a total downgrade. And whilst this shoebox is being renovated, and we understand that they've got rat-infested and so on and so forth, so the various Rentokil and various other firms have been brought in to get rid of the vermin before Andrew comes in. What's happened is that he's moved into a very small property on the Sandringham estate, pending that. But yes, it does seem as though he has now left Windsor, and the royal family is desperate to bury him somewhere in amidst those sort of grounds.
Now, Prince Edward is the first royal to comment since the latest release of these Epstein files. What has he had to say?
Which is interesting because he is indeed the first royal to comment on the latest Epstein files. It's very reminiscent of the statement from Buckingham Palace. You might recall on the 30th of October 2025, when His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honours of Prince Andrew. And what they emphasise at the very end, which is the important thing, their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. So what's happened to Edward, I felt they dealt with it in a very dignified way. He was speaking at the World Government Summit in Dubai on Tuesday. The Duke of Edinburgh, and that's his full title, 61, he was questioned about the latest Department of Justice release of the file, with 3 million documents, you will recall. And what he said, well, look, with the best will in the world, I'm not sure this is what the audience probably the least bit interested in that. No, probably not the least bit interested in that. They all came here to listen to education, solving the future. But no, I think it's all really important always to remember the victims. And who are the victims in all this? A lot of victims in this. So slightly nebulous terms, but he's again emphasising, as their Majesties did, that we should focus on the victims. Certainly some people who claim to be victims are Beatrice and Eugenie in all of this, which we'll speak about a little bit later.
Yes, I want to get your thoughts on what Beatrice and Eugenie have potentially had to say. Of course, what we're feeling for them at the moment. Before we do, though, lawyers for a second woman who alleges that she was sent to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein have urged King Charles's lawyers to issue a real apology. This is following allegations that this woman spent the night with Andrew at Royal Lodge in 2010 and had been given a tour of Buckingham Palace.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? And we've been talking about this previously as well, is that the amount of grace and favours and sort of benefits that Andrew used to give to Epstein and the various people trafficked by Epstein, including tours of Buckingham Palace and so on and so forth. And that's what some of these 3 million documents have revealed, is the extent of that access. But yes, indeed, a second woman, as predicted, and there will be more revelations, I can guarantee, as people continue to comb through those 3 million documents. But a second woman has come forward. She says that she was sent to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein for a sexual encounter with the then Prince Andrew. And again, this time they put the pressure on the King Charles lawyer, to issue a real apology. And no doubt that real apology, they would want to come with some sort of financial settlement. And the reality of this is that, and people have made this point, is that if people were coming in and out of Buckingham Palace, then the security other people would know. It's not that easy for people to get into. There are protocols to be looked at. And so questions need to be answered. Who knew what, when? That needs to be looked at. But certainly this is, lawyers have come out representing yet another person claiming to have been trafficked. They were apparently in their 20s at the time. So we should also point out that Andrew continues to deny any wrongdoing.
Let's also talk about Fergie. Sarah Ferguson's charity, Sarah's Trust, has announced that it will close for the foreseeable future. This comes just days after new details emerged about her friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew?
Well, it is extraordinary. I mean, this is, and it's quite sad. We spoke about it last year, is that a lot of the charities instantly distanced themselves from Fergie, as she's known, as more and more of these revelations came out about the extent of her relationship. Perhaps the most shocking thing of all, Gabriella, is the timing on this, because she denied any sort of contact with Epstein. And what happened is, after his conviction and imprisonment for his offences, she was still in contact. That's what the latest revelations show.
Shocking.
And it is completely shocking. And what's happened, so the Sarah's Trust, and this is the sad thing about it, because it was doing good work. It was established in 2020, and this is what they say. It's dedicated to supporting frontline grassroots work to address the humanitarian and environmental crisis, the hunger crisis, and issues perpetuating cycles of extreme poverty. They've realised they cannot continue. Sarah has been tainted in this way, and her association with Epstein is becoming more and more apparent, and lots of details, and humiliating details, not just for Sarah herself, but also obviously for her 2 children.
Well, let's talk about those 2 children. We're learning more about how Beatrice and Eugenie are feeling. And of course, it would be a shock to no one that they are feeling appalled and embarrassed.
Well, they're actually aghast, appalled and embarrassed about what's emerged. Now, it's always embarrassing when your parents do terrible things, but in the circumstances, it is even worse. And it's not just what's being revealed about the extent of Andrew's relationship, and also those terrible pictures which are shown with Andrew on all fours next to a female on the ground, and various other things. The context of that, we're not entirely sure, but clearly it's not an image that you'd want published everywhere. But also you've got the plunged further humiliation about embarrassing details about Sarah herself. And in one of her ones, she talks about, the brother I've always wished for. She was praising him and that sort of side, having denied any sort of contact. She was basically, and also in complete humiliation for Eugenie. She says she's waiting for her youngest daughter to return from a shagging weekend. Now, how humiliating is that? Not just your parents talking about that sort of side, but also in the context of the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. So actually, my thoughts go out to Prince.
Yeah, look at all those royal weirdos. They all freaks, man. Diddy ain't got nothing on none of them. Believe me. The royals are the freakiest motherfuckers on the planet. Now, clearly they show pictures of this man on his hands and knees playing with a little girl. That wasn't me. But we can see your face. No, you're mistaken. No, we're not. And we're going to continuously put to the forefront the nonsense that you clowns are up to. Now, granted, may it be at one point in time in my life, I might have been an asshole, but I was never has been a pedophile type child asshole. What is it that you see in little kids, my man? There's nothing sexual about that. That makes you weird and dangerous and to be left the fuck alone. It's your boy Dabrand knows, and this is about my bedtime. So with that being said, now that you know that your boy Dabrand knows, I'm gone.
Residuals moving like Chris Brown. I keep it original, you know how my shit sound. I'm way more mature, but I ain't put the blick down. They looking like, wow, this nigga say blick now? Not really, motherfucker. It just rhymes with Chris Brown. When I come around, they all gonna skip town like they owe me money or tried to Obi-Wan me. Then I went Anakin, now they all panicking. You could be make you a man again. You don't even smell the kind of shit that you standing in. Jumped out the window, don't know what you landed in. Cop blocking motherfuckers made me switch up the plan again. Okay, guess what? Nigga, I was built for this. I was born for this. They won't admit that they watch me like a porno flick. The rap game is a toilet. I be on some shit. I'm beyond your shit and all that other corny shit. Me in the game on some holy matrimony shit. This my anniversary, some Tony shit. Load the clip, do a spin. Grab my dick on some Michael Jackson shit.